Bob Wallace television studio at Edinboro University, you're watching the Shapiro Variety Show with your host, Chris Shapiro.
Welcome to another episode of the Shapiro Variety Show. I'm Chris Shapiro. We have a great program for you tonight. Dr. Covington from the Department of Communication and Media Studies is with us today. And we also have a political satire sketch going to be later in the program. You're going to love it. Now, I'm walking to class the other day, and there's this kid behind me talking on his cell phone, right? Talking about some bachelor party, and he's talking to his buddy. Yeah, it's going to be a pretty good time going out to my buddy's camp, and, going to get some guns, go shoot some stuff, got a couple bags of grind there. Yeah, it's going to be a good time. I'm going to be out in the woods all weekend. And I'm like, what? Really? For a bachelor party, you're going out into the woods to go shooting things? Seriously, who's organizing this thing? Ted Nugent? But, moving on. So, there was this article I saw on Yahoo News the other day, and it was about this company down in Australia where they are raising bugs, mealworms, crickets, and whatnot, for eating purposes. This is no joke. Down in Australia, you can get a chocolate-covered mealworm or a cricket lollipop. No joke. But you see, I think they actually stole the idea from the dining hall on campus. See, they've been cooking with bugs in their food since the 60s, just not necessarily on purpose. Let's see, what else was going on? This was kind of a slow news week. Oh, this was interesting. Holly Madison from the Girls Next Door, Hugh Hefner Playboy, she took out a $1 million insurance policy on her breasts. Again, not joking, this is for real. She took out a $1 million policy on her chest. She called them her assets. And she's going to some production and whatnot, and she said that if they got injured or damaged, she wanted to have some kind of insurance to cover it. When asked what company she went with, she said, Allstate. She wanted her policy to be in good hands. Now, we're going to transition right into our political satire. It's election year coming up next year, and so I thought it would be fun to take a look at how politicians tend to dodge questions at press conferences. We've all seen it, so this is a satire look at it. And after that, we have our interview with Dr. Covington, so stick around. All right, let's call this press conference to an order. Yeah, Mr. Senator. Yes, you. How do you respond to allegations of you, yours truly, accepting bribes while in office? I'm going to take a moment to clarify my positions on allegations. You see, I deny them all, both past, current, and future allegations, because I don't discriminate when it comes to an allegation. I deny them all. No matter what kind of allegation it is, I deny them all, because there is no middle ground with an allegation. Either you accept it or you don't. There is no middle ground. You can't discriminate, okay? And I hate when people discriminate against an allegation because it's wrong, and I don't support a wrong thing. That's why I don't discriminate. However, my opponent, he's a discriminator of allegations. He accepts current allegations but denies past allegations. How can this be? I will tell you, he is a discriminator against allegations. And by golly, I will not tolerate a discrimination of allegations. Hence why, if I am re-elected, my first order of business will be put an end to all discrimination of allegations. Thank you. You didn't answer the question. I believe I did. Okay, forget it. Let's move on. New question. Unemployment is at 9.8%. It's going up. How are you going to create jobs if reelected? What is your master plan to get employment back on track? My fellow American, I want to thank you for asking such a well-crafted, intelligent question. Because question asking is an art. It's a craft. Not everyone has it. But you, my friend, you have this gift. But it's my dream that every hard-working American could develop good, solid question-asking skills such as you have. Which is why, if I'm re-elected, I will implement a new program in education that teaches students, no matter who, when, where, how to craft good, solid questions. Something that needs to be done, and by golly, I will stand up and support this educational bill because it needs to be done. That's why. So, thank you. Do you even listen to what you are saying? I do. In fact, I hear myself every time my phone rings because my ringtone is my speech on healthcare reform, which is available at my website, www.myname.com. Okay, download my ringtone, absolutely free. Okay, let's try this one, my friend. Where do you stand on gun control? When it comes to gun control, I think it can be best summed up by 2 points of view. And for these points of view, I'd like to quote one of the most inspirational people in my life, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, who says this on gun control. Blasters, which you can substitute guns for, are, I quote, are a clumsy, rude weapon of an uncivilized age. Now, second point of view, I like to quote my good friend Clint Eastwood, who has this to say on gun control. If there's a gun around, I want to be in control of it. So are you for or against gun control? You still didn't answer the question. I thought I made it pretty clear. Would you like me to restate my last statement? At this point, why not? I thought I made it pretty clear. That wasn't your last statement. Yes, you see, I thought I made it pretty clear was my last ... because then there was a ... which is a pause, and then I said, would you like me to restate my last statement? You see, I have here my notes if you'd like to examine the evidence, because I'm very open about something like that. If you would like to come up, you can more than certainly look at my notes. I use crayons, but you can still read it. No, don't bother. All right, well, what do we do now? I'm done. I'm done with you. I can't stand it. No more. You're horrible. I'm leaving. Okay, so no more questions from the press, because I love the press. You guys are the gatekeepers of society, and I appreciate all the hard work that you people do, because you are the backbone to gatekeeping. Here's the gate. You're here. Here's the public. Right here. That's what you do. Right here. Thank you. Okay, so if we're all done, I can still catch 16 and Pregnant. My daughter's on that show.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest tonight, Dr. William G. Covington Jr. of the Department of Communication and Media Studies. Dr. Covington, thank you so much for being with us today.
It's great to be here, Chris. I commend you on actually getting my name correct. I always think that writer, William F. Buckley Jr., I always identified with him because he used his full name, and I thought if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Now, we're here today to talk about your book, which we have here, which is Creativity in TV, Cable, Managing and Producing. So, could you give us a short, let's say, one-paragraph synopsis of this book?
I think it pertains to creating and producing your television shows in a system, but also having unique contributions that distinguish you from other producers and creators.
Okay. So, what motivated you to write such a book? Was it, I have a lot of papers on this sort of subject and I'm going to just compile them into a book, or is it, I'm going to sit down and hammer this book out and really craft something?
Well, one of my favorite topics to pursue that I've written articles on and have blogged about and have written books about is creativity. So that's one of my passions in terms of researching the creative endeavor, the process, and the products produced as a result. And so my background is radio, TV, and I just combined my passion for the act of creativity and put it in the context of producing for cable and broadcast television. And so I already had a body of research compiled, and I'd been pursuing the subject, so you just plug in the creative content into the context of television production, and it's a good match.
Now, you mentioned blog. Are you an active blogger? Do you incorporate your books into your blogs? How's that?
I have 4 different blogs.
Wow, 4.
I have one.
Are they all active?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some more active than others.
Okay.
I have one on WordPress that's a personal blog. Well, it's a combination. Sometimes professional, sometimes just reflective and personal. Then I have one that I started on, I think it's blog.com. I can't recall specifically. But it's actually an older blog, And I maintain it, I guess maybe for nostalgic purposes, just
Okay.
because I got it going and I want to keep it up. But I only post on there maybe once a month, just to keep it active. And then there's 2 professional blogs, and they're maintained by media literacy organizations, one of them out of North Carolina State University and the other one by New Media Literacies Collaborative. And so I only post on those 2 about once a month also, but just enough so that they're active.
Yeah, to keep it
and
active.
They
and
stay
your
in search
viewers.
engines.
Yeah,
A lot
wow.
of people, and sometimes I use academic citations, you know, the entire 9 yards on that.
Okay.
And I'll read something in an article or in a book, and then I'll blog about it. And I get reaction from other people who are in the new media literacies field commenting on it.
Now, can you see how many subscribers you have to your blog? Do you have that option?
See, when it comes to technology, I'm more of a content person.
Okay.
And when it comes to the technology, I'm still learning the digital ins and outs of the system, so I'm sure somebody could easily do that, but I don't know how.
Yeah, well, that's amazing, because I know I have a blog that I started for my one class, and since that class has ended, I haven't kept with the blog. I've just been too busy, and I have to give you credit for having 4
Have you
blogs.
kept track of how many people check in on your blog?
No, because I haven't checked in my blog for almost 4 months, I hate to admit, but I really give you credit, because I know some people actually make their whole living off of blogs and whatnot, and being a professor writing books and having 4 blogs, I don't know how you have any free time.
Well, I had a student, actually, she gave a speech on it. It was in the speech course. I think, did you have Speech Com 107 with me?
I did not. I had Dr. Esposito.
Okay, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
She gave a speech. She, I don't understand all the ramifications of this, but she gets paid to blog. That
Yeah.
people send her money to blog about certain things that she writes about.
Yeah, that's like the best job ever.
Yeah.
You should try and do that. You could retire early, go down to the Caribbean, and just blog all day.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that was odd, and I have no idea how this happened or what brought it about, but I got a check in the mail from Google.
Oh, yeah?
People, and I still don't understand if they were Googling my name or for my products or whatever, but I received a check from Google because I had been Googled enough.
Wow.
The amount of the check, they went to all the trouble to mail me a check for 3 cents.
The postage alone, I mean,
How about that?
that's awesome. Did you cash it, or did you just say, well, I have it, you know? Did you go to the bank? I got this check from Google.
I've been Googled. I have a 3 cent check.
Then the bank teller's like, oh, okay, 3 cents. Do you want to deposit that? How do you want that, you know? That's really funny. But let's get back to the book for a moment. And I know a lot of professors, whenever they have a publication such as this, they try and incorporate it into the class that they teach or different courses. Is that the case for you? Is this required reading for your students, or?
I have used it in the past, and even though it's about a decade old, it still has relevance because it isn't technology-based, it's more content-based and philosophical in terms of role models historically that used creativity in media. But I actually have a more current book that I co-edited with my colleague Dr. Jabbar Al-Obaidi, who teaches at Bridgewater State, where I used to teach. And I see him once a year out at the NAB BEA convention in Las Vegas. And it's a compilation actually of work from that convention. Dr. Esposito has a chapter in it. He presented a paper out there one year. And so that current book, I'm using the one that I co-edited with Dr. Al-Obaidi.
Okay. Very interesting. Now, a book this size, just on research alone, how much time would you spend?
Well,
No, not writing, just doing the research, because
Uh-huh.
I'd be interested to know how much time, because I know for me on a research paper, you know, it can take up to a month sometimes just getting all the facts. Here you have over 100 pages of...
That's the sort of thing where it's a labor of love, and it's difficult to quantify because as I said, creativity is something that I pursue in different venues, and I might blog some and then retain the same research and use it as part of the book, and then do with the same article, use it for a conference paper. And so I'm working on several different projects and using some of the same materials for, you know, like a blog, a conference paper, a portion of a book. So I kind of have several different projects going at once, and so it's difficult to say how much time did I devote to the book because I was working on several things simultaneously.
Okay, so everything kind of overlapped
Yeah,
for you
it
then.
overlaps.
Gotcha. Okay, now, one passage that I enjoyed was about Thomas Edison. And the way that you phrased it was that tinkering with creativity led to his invention of the phonograph. And I was wondering if you could elaborate a bit for us what you meant by tinkering with creativity.
Well, before I get into that, just Thomas Edison himself, I find this kind of surprising because in my intro to mass communication, I give them the option of writing a paper on any topic they want. And in this one section of the course, this semester, I've had 3 papers on Thomas Edison.
Really?
And you said you're interested in Edison.
I am. I love, when I was a kid, I was in maybe grade school, and I remember getting a book on Thomas Edison, like a biography book on him. And I grew up thinking I was going to be the next Thomas Edison, and I would just try and be like him and ask questions and try and invent things. So I was thrilled when I read the passage in there about that.
Well, see, to me, he is one of those Renaissance-type people. I think back to Leonardo da Vinci. When I lived in Massachusetts, they had at the Science Museum there an exhibition on Leonardo, and he was an experimenter. And camera obscura and, you know, the moving picture concept where, you know, you have a lot of still pictures and then you flip it and it gives the illusion of, I might have messed up your shot there.
It's all right.
But it gives the illusion of movement. So Leonardo did that way back before film was ever invented. But going back to answer your question about Thomas Edison, so many times inventors, not just Edison, but it could be any of the other inventors in media products, they will invent something and then not be aware of how it's going to be used. Like the phonograph, you know, writing with sounds. They might think they're inventing something that would improve your ability to hear or, you know, some other means, and then somebody else would later pick up on that invention and apply it in a different context. That's happened, you know, throughout media, that people find a different use for something that once it's been invented.
Yeah, the crossover is amazing because if you think of our world today, recorded sound is everywhere, from our cell phones to even our glasses. And I'm sure Thomas Edison didn't think that whenever he was in, what was the name of his, I know he's from New Jersey, that's where he had his factory. I'm trying to think of the name.
Yeah, I'm trying
it's
to
on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
And
I'm drawing a blank myself. And I just read the student's paper today she presented on Thomas Edison.
Yeah. But nonetheless, whenever he was there in his factory inventing things, I'm sure he never thought of, you know, everything that he would lead to. And even the musicians that use, you know, records and whatnot, that back in the 1800s when he was doing this, no clue what it was going to lead to.
And in terms of, you know, an indomitable spirit that persisted and didn't give up, I don't know if this is true, I hope it is. But I heard or read somewhere that he had a fire that damaged his life's work, you know. And he was standing there with his sons and he said, boys, look at that fire, you know. And then he just took it in stride. The next day he was back, you know, rebuilding and, you know, from the ashes, that he refused to be defeated, even though, you know, back in those days they didn't have insurance that would pick up the tab on that sort of stuff, but he refused to let a fire destroy his life's work. You know, he just said, look at that fire, you know, and enjoy the moment. Okay, tomorrow we're going to start all over from scratch.
Yeah, and there's not many men like that. I mean, he truly is an inspirational figure in American history.
And that's one of the things I think about when I see a natural disaster on TV, a hurricane, a flood, a tornado. Would I have internally, in me, the character development to the extent, like Thomas Edison, that, you know, okay, this is not going to get me down, I'm not going to dwell on it, I'm going to start over the next day. I hope I would pass that test.
Yeah, you never know until that you're actually faced with that challenge. But now, you've written several books, and they're all sort of geared towards like a textbook sort of style. What are your plans for the future? More of the same, or do you think maybe you'll get into a little bit of fiction writing, or?
I don't read much fiction, and so I don't really have the desire to write much fiction. I like pursuing topics that I would say enhance the quality of life of people, not just necessarily pertaining to mass media, but motivation and goal-setting books and something that inspires, and you have role models of other people that have overcome the odds. I love those type of genres, you know, that type of story.
So kind of better your life, sort of.
Motivation, goal setting, biographies, all those kind of things.
What are some of your favorite biography books or autobiography?
going back to not being much of a fiction reader, I didn't really know too much about Louis L'Amour, and I just saw an autobiography on him. It was at some place like Walmart or Target, something like that. This has been a few years ago, and so I bought it just to start reading it. I knew he was a writer. All I knew was a cowboy writer. Then I started reading, and I was fascinated that he had about 17,000 books in his personal library.
Wow.
And he believed in, I would say, a double whammy when it comes to education. That he had a book with him, this was in the pre-internet days, that he would read incessantly wherever he was, and he traveled extensively, not just in the United States domestically, but globally. And he would always read, and he would always observe the different cultures he was in. And so reading and then being aware of the different cultures, you know, travel and reading coupled. And another biography that I actually reviewed, this one for the Journal of Popular Culture, Steve Allen, who was a pioneer in the early days of television. He was a voracious reader, and this was the pre-internet days. He always had a book in his hand, and he wrote hundreds of songs. One popular artist, Frankie Lane, dared him to write a certain number of songs by a given date, and Steve Allen won that contest. He produced, he wrote the songs in a specified time period.
Well, we're running out of time, but Dr. Covington, I want to thank you so much for being on the show again. You're always a pleasure to have with us.
Well, thank you for asking me, Chris. It's an honor to be invited.
Hopefully, maybe if you read another book in this semester, maybe we'll have you on again.
Thanks.
So, but we do thank you for being here. And for our viewers, we will be back next week. And until then, have a good night and an even better tomorrow. Thank you.